我们伟大的领袖毛主席穿着布军装来到群众之中，人群沸腾。
Mao emerged in person to review his young supporters, a million or more shock troops who'd responded to his call to oppose Soviet-style revisionism. The Red Guards, who before long would plunge China into near civil war, pledged to give their lives to defend the chairman's cause. Later, Mao was at last able to convene a party congress, the first for 11 years, to declare that the Cultural Revolution had been brought to a successful close. In the new party constitution, Mao named Lin Biao his closest comrade in arms, an accolade the chairman had never before accorded to any of his colleagues. The army, which had emerged from the Cultural Revolution as the country's leading political force, was rewarded with key positions. Even Lin Biao was caught up in the mood, savouring his triumph. Mao's closing address, his last known speech in public, reflected his satisfaction on the way events had turned out.
我们的大会，这一次第9次代表大会能够开得好，能够开展一个团结的大会、胜利的大会。在这一块，期待更大的胜利。
原来共产党是想借着文化革命整掉那些什么走私的味道的，事实上呢，结果呢，没料到很多人就由于文化革命而就是思想开始独立思考了，开始怀疑这个对共产党的统治有怀疑了。
By 1969, however, the Cultural Revolution was running out of steam. The spontaneity had gone. Even Mao seemed bored. The leftist values he'd advocated were now imprinted on the daily lives of almost 1 billion people. The only culture was Jiang Qing's model operas. Writers and artists were silenced or reduced to producing propaganda to glorify the regime. China had become so stultified, so shackled by Maoist orthodoxy, that it had become inevitable that one day the pendulum would swing back.
At that time in China, there were maybe 800 million or 1 billion people. And the minds of those 800 million or 1 billion persons were all the same as one mind. The mind of Mao Zedong. But after the Cultural Revolution, each individual had a mind of his own and was able to consider problems independently. This is the greatest gain from the Cultural Revolution. No more blind worship to anyone. No more long live, long live.
With hindsight, that was indeed the legacy of the Cultural Revolution, though it wouldn't become fully apparent until after Mao had died. In the meantime, the Chinese people would continue to go through the motions of belonging to an ultra-radical society in which fewer and fewer of them believed. The learning experience would eventually stand China in good stead. On the afternoon of Saturday, September the 18th, 1976, China stood still. Mao Zedong had died 9 days earlier from a rare disorder of the nervous system called Lou Gehrig's disease. His power over the Chinese people, for good and for ill, was equalled only by the greatest of China's founding emperors. With single-minded ruthlessness, he wrenched his subjects out of the somnolence of a medieval empire and transformed them into citizens of a modern nation-state. Yet amid these scenes of a grieving nation, few Chinese felt any personal sense of loss. They trembled out of fear of the unknown. Through all the turbulence of the previous decades, Mao had been the one constant in their lives. Now he was gone. For most Chinese, the historical Mao, strategist, poet, politician, the man who caused the deaths of more of his own people than any other leader in history, has faded, giving place to an idea, a myth. Each morning, hundreds, sometimes thousands of people queue to visit the mausoleum where Mao's body lies in state. 30 years after his demise, Chinese take a more nuanced view of his legacy than Westerners. Mao destroyed old China and presided over the birth of the new. In death, he still evokes among his own people respect and awe. Like the Monkey King of Chinese legend, he turned heaven upside down, allowing his successors, more practical, less visionary men, to make China what it is today.
That Mao gained in life lives on after his death. His body remains on display, preserved as it was at the moment of his death. He is an epic hero, the warrior leader who has steered his great nation through rough and rocky waters. Mao Zedong is now more than a man. He is a god in a godless country.